Thank you. Yeah. Okay, can you hear me? Yes. All right. So what Mark didn't say is, I said yes before he finished his sentence yesterday. He says, would you? Yes. I had that on my mind. So I just want to give you a little background on me. Who am I? I'm a licensed unity. I have an ordination from another organization. I actually have my application in for the ordination path for non-unity ordained ministers. And I founded a spiritual center in Deerfield, Illinois 7 years ago as a licensed teacher. And I've been the spiritual leader there all this time. And so I've been doing ministry for all these years. And if Unity decides not to ordain me, it's not going to hurt my feelings. It's not going to change what I do or don't do because I'm already there. So this is me with Yoda at Abundant Life Spiritual Center. And just a little background on me. I came into this world with an awareness about our non-human animal friends. I was always very sensitive to them and always there to save whatever turtle crossed my path or whatever might have happened. I struggled to the extent that a child can struggle because most of us are just given a belief system straight out of the womb. Here's what you eat. But I had a different awareness about it, and it took me till I was 15 years old to announce to my parents that I'm going to become a vegetarian. I had absolutely nobody to inspire me. This is in 1973. Nobody to inspire me, no groups, no one's doing it. I don't even know what it is. I just knew that I had to be in alignment with my values. And if I could live without killing another being, I would do so. So that was 15. And then I was a vegetarian for so many, many, many years. But I cooked meat for my family. I had 3 daughters. And I really didn't have my awakening. I also still was ovo-lacto. I still ate cheese and eggs for many years until my 40s when I awakened, when I found a book by Matthew Scully called Dominion. He's a Catholic. And he was a speechwriter for George W. Bush, and a vegan. So I thought, I just love combinations of of values all in one person. So I don't know how to get Xfinity to stop stalking me.
Turn off your Wi-Fi. Yeah, you can turn off Wi-Fi.
Okay. How do I do that? Okay. So I had an awakening when I found this book, and I started really, really understanding more about our farming principles, the sheer volume of what we do to animals, and I started watching videos just to bear witness to the actual facts of how animals are treated, especially the ones that we use for food. So it wasn't until about 5 or 6 years ago, I think 6 years ago, that I actually became vegan. So I'm a relatively new vegan. Are you finding it? Okay.
Top right. Turn Wi-Fi off. To the right. To the right.
Oh, there it is. It didn't come up for me earlier. Thank you.
Okay, no, we're going to go back into, I'll put it back in here.
It should be playing now.
Okay, I think I can do view. Presenter view. Thank you. All right. There we go. So this is just a little bit of a snapshot about who I am now. I am a minister and a spiritual leader. I'm in the people business. I'm an animal advocate, but I'm in the people business. I have lots of friends that are doing other kinds of things, but I'm here to awaken people. This is a picture of, this is Greg Mouse. He was rescued from a biology lab that my daughter at the time called crying, my biology teacher's going to freeze these mice to death. You come get them. So we went and got them. And this one I named Greg after my husband. I never told him because what man wants to be named after a mouse? Or wants to have a mouse named after him. But I named him Greg because he didn't want to be contained. He got sick one day and I actually took him to the vet. These are my human animal friends. This is my husband and my 3 daughters. These are some pictures of me visiting a farm sanctuary in California. And these are my 4 boys that I found off of I-94 2 years ago. So whatever animal crosses my path, I will take care of. I know I cannot take care of all of them. So I have a call to action that was very, very clear to me. So I want to just talk to you a little bit about why I was called to action before I tell you about how I was called to action. So I want to tell you a little bit about what I know. One thing I know is that human beings are powerful and creative. Very powerful and creative. I know that we do not have to live the way we've always lived because we can create a new reality for ourselves, right? We can break patterns of the past. We can choose different thoughts and different beliefs. I also know that we as a culture live as though non-human animals are things. We treat them like they're things. Here's a picture of a little piglet and his mom. He's separated from his mom because she's in a crate. Here's the sad reality. This is just in the United States alone, that we kill over 1 million sentient animals every hour of every day. And this is on a 24-hour clock. So what does that mean? That number is just, it's something we can't even grasp. So I did the math. My background is actually chemical engineering, so I like to use that every once in a while. So I did a little bit of math. And what I found was 1 million every hour would be like the 9 most populated cities in the United States in a day being decimated. It would be like the city of Chicago being decimated in 3 hours, and then being filled again, and being decimated again, and again, and again. Now, why am I bringing this up? It's a lot of violence. It's a lot of violence. Just give that some thought. And this is what we do just for have animals for food in the United States. What else do I know? I know that animals used for food are abused, and they're used basically because we want to. It's very, very hard to come face to face with this because we really don't need to eat animals anymore. And I'll cover that in a minute. There are virtually no federal laws that protect farm animals from abuse and confinement, and 95% are not even protected from some kind of law that we would call inhumane slaughter law. This is a picture, by the way, of a free-range chicken farm. So those of you who are feeling good about your free-range chickens, take a look. What else do I know? I know that animals are some ones. They're not some things. There are over 2,500 studies that have declared them as sentient beings. They have memories. They can feel pain. They suffer. They have families. They want to live. They have their own interests, desires, and personalities. And as I said, it's hard to come face to face with this, but my goodness, our world has changed so much from the hunter-gatherer times. We can go down to Whole Foods. There's so many alternatives that are actually more healthy for us. And there's so many ways to get protein that are not animal-based protein. This is a picture of, these are female calves, dairy calves. In order for us to drink milk, I didn't even awaken this. I was an animal lover. And I didn't even awaken to this until I was in my late 40s. What is dairy? In order for us to drink the cow's milk, she has to lose a baby. So her baby's taken from her. The male calves are put in veal crates, so they're made into veal. And the females are taken away and put into these little artificial places where they can live freely and grow up to be dairy cows. I believe animals are some ones, not some things. What else do I know? I start off by saying I'm in the human business. I'm in the people business. I'm here because I want to awaken and enliven people to this. And what I know is the factory farm work is grueling, repetitive, exhausting, dangerous, and extremely violent. So we pay people to confine animals. We pay people to abuse animals. We pay people to kill animals. One of the things you may not know is that the egg industry has absolutely no need for male chicks, right? Because male chicks can't lay eggs. So male chicks are either, they're separated at birth, or when they're little tiny little things, they're separated to male and female. The females are allowed to live, and they're taken away from their moms. And the males are either immediately ground up alive, or they're gassed. And here's a picture of a woman just disposing of the solid waste, the male chicks. So workers must psychologically detach themselves from the large-scale death that they're involved in. How else can they do their work? So whatever empathy, whatever thoughts of kindness or compassion for another being has to be put somewhere else if you're a worker. And so many of us feel okay about how we eat because we're not having to deal with any of it. So whether you can care for the animals or not, at least think about the human impact. Slaughterhouse lines run at insanely frenzied paces. So fast. Workers are not even allowed, and some workers, they've written about how they're actually defecating and going to the bathroom right there because they don't have time to take a break. So we're thinking about this kind of killing, 250 to 400 cows an hour, or 140 chickens per minute. So injuries are rampant. They're double the rate of any United States industry and 30 times the national average for repetitive motion injuries. So think of the human impact. Counties with slaughterhouses, according to the Huffington Post, August the 18th, have 4 times the national average for arrests, with significantly higher rates of violent alcoholism, domestic abuse, and suicide. Does that surprise anyone? If you're a paid killer, you have to numb yourself, and there's also something else inside you. So this abuse, we know this metaphysically, where does the energy go? James Wildman, who is a humane educator, says you can't do anything violent humanely. So I will just let that sit with you. So what is my calling? My calling is to awaken the world one soul at a time to the truth that we are all one. And I translate that by saying, widening our circle of compassion to include all sentient beings. I really believe that this is the boundary that is next. Now, I know most people don't. Believe me, I know generally can guess what's on your mind. I know what comes back when you start facing this. But one thing I do know, I've recently written a blog, it's not published yet, about the Atlantic slave trade. But slavery was ingrained in human society for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And we look at people and go, how could you have ever done that? How could you have ever said it was okay to enslave another being? But it was so accepted for thousands of years. And I feel like this is the same frontier. I call this the next moral frontier. And I love being in the same coffee club as Einstein. He says our task must be to free ourselves. I really believe this is about freeing ourselves. Free ourselves by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature and its beauty. So this is what I'm here to do, to open the heart of whoever is ready. I know that my audience isn't huge. I know that there's so much pushback on this. I know that there are also people who are ready to awaken to this. And when I see that little opening in them, that's when I do my ministry. But I can't make anyone wrong. We've all inherited this. Nobody's doing anything wrong other than that we are continue to enact belief systems that we've inherited. There's other considerations. There's a huge environmental impact of the animal agriculture business. And there's also health concerns. There's so many people working on these things. And my ministry here is such a spirit-led thing. I mean, it's one of those it's one of those arguments with God where it's like, really, do I have to do this? But I have clarity on what is mine to do. My heart. My work is not here to bring all sorts of environmental statistics forward so you can say, you know what, we shouldn't be doing that. The environmental statistics are there, as well as the health statistics are there. These are not mine to do. I leave these for others. So here's my observation. That there's a disconnect between what I know about people, generally speaking, the beliefs that people have, and the values that people have. And also, there's a disconnect between those, which is, generally speaking, we want to be kind, loving, considerate, compassionate people. But there's a disconnect between that and our behaviors. And we call this cognitive dissonance. I have a whole blog I've written on cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when your behaviors are different from your values. And there's a sense of discomfort within you. And when there's discomfort, what you end up doing is projecting onto somebody else, blaming somebody else, or making the other person wrong. So who's my target audience with this ministry that I'm about to tell you about? I have two target audiences. Again, I listen very clearly to Spirit. I don't wander off from what Spirit asks me to do. And so my audience is a spiritually minded audience. To help awaken those who are spiritually minded to widening our circle of compassion to include non-human animals. The other part of my audience are animal advocates, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So the spiritually minded should be a really easy audience because we already value love, peace, and harmony. We want to be kind and nonviolent. We already know we are one, right? We teach that, we preach that. I think we understand generally the metaphysics of violence, that the act of violence, that actually like that energy goes somewhere, it doesn't just disappear. And it means something. And it says something about us. Yesterday we talked about bondedness. Mark talked about bondedness, that we are born in bondedness. We're born in togetherness. And I think you see that whenever you see a really small child and an animal, they want to go towards it. You know, they don't want to hurt it. They typically want to go towards it. We already know the golden rule, do unto others as you want to be done unto you. We understand that we aren't tied to learned behaviors. Spiritually minded people know that we can change our belief systems. We can change our thoughts. We can change our patterns. And we know that we create our lives and that we don't have to be tied to who we've been in the past, that we can change and evolve. The opportunity for spiritually minded people for this ministry, for me, is I see it as a path to wholeness. I see it as a way to help people who want to align their actions with their values and to integrate that inner child that loves all things and wants to connect. And I really feel that for those of us who awaken and take these steps when we're ready, that we really will experience true inner peace, because when we're aligned with our values, there's so much less anxiety here. Now, my other audience are animal advocates. Here's a picture of some wonderful, sweet people who stand on this corner as the trucks, to transport trucks that are taking pigs to the slaughterhouse. This is probably the only kind thing that's happened to these pigs in their lifetime. And these people stand at this corner and they give them water. Because even though there are laws that you're supposed to give water and food to animals after so many hours of transport, nobody's paying attention to those. And what's the point? They're going to be dead soon anyway. But here's the thing about animal advocates, and I really see this as an opportunity to bring ministry to this general population, because so many of them have turned away from God. So many of them go, really? Because most people say, the reason we can do this to animals is because God gave them to us. They're ours. It's okay. So many people who have this love for animals have turned to atheists. They don't trust religion. And unfortunately, in their line of work, they can be very harsh and intolerant of others. And I see their language. I'll be on Facebook pages. I'll see what they say about, there might be an undercover investigation that reveals some activity of abuse in a factory farm. And they say everyone they go in, they see abuse, so it's not uncommon. And the animal advocates are just so angry at those humans. And I kind of want to get on that page and say, oh, we just need to love and bless them and pray for them, that they may awaken. So I'd love to see, I really feel that this particular population would also benefit from spiritual support for their mission and for also opening their hearts up to why do humans behave this way. So that's the opportunity for them to bring universal love to the mission of animal advocates and to help them with spiritual tools to support their work. Because I'm really behind what they're doing. So if they had prayer and meditation and visioning and all the tools that we have, that I just really see that their work can be furthered so much greater. And for them to be able to feel the love of spirit for their work. Because like I said before, as a general whole, they've turned away from God. They don't believe that there's a God out there. They don't believe that God is love. Charles Fillmore is one of my favorite guys. And Jesus is my best guy. Charles is my second. Charles Fillmore, do you all know how much of this is Charles Fillmore, everything that I'm saying? I knew that he was a vegetarian. I knew they did vegetarian stuff at the Unity Inn, but I had no idea how prolific he was in teaching and preaching and writing about this. And he said we need never look for universal peace on this earth until men stop killing animals for food. That is a bold statement. It's bolder than I'm willing to say because I want you to keep listening to me. But he was very bold about this. He was not timid at all. He didn't go like, hey guys, why don't you try this instead? I mean, he just hit people right between the eyes. And in the Unity Statement of Faith, this statement was taken out of the Unity Statement of Faith. We believe that all life is sacred and that man should not kill or be party to the killing of animals for food. Also that cruelty, war, and wanton destruction of human life will continue so long as men destroy animals. There's a connection. As long as we can objectify any living being, we can objectify a human, a man or a woman. As long as we're capable of industrializing an entire species, we're capable of doing it to human beings as well. It's the same energy. There's a connection. So how am I to be this message in the world? Because I wrestled with this for so long. And I had this quote up here. It says, I always wondered why somebody didn't do something about that. And then I realized I am somebody. So I'm still discerning what this ministry looks like in whole. I'll tell you where I am now. I have a blog. It's called wolfandthelamb.com. And if I knew I was speaking, I would have brought all my business cards and stuff with you, but I didn't know I was speaking until yesterday, so I had to put this together last night. It's based on the scripture Isaiah chapter 11, verse 6, where it says, a leopard will lie down with, a wolf will live with a lamb. A leopard will lie down with a goat, and a calf and a lion and yearling together. And a little child will lead them. So on my blog, I interpret the scripture. You guys can interpret it how you want, because it's metaphysical. It's symbolic. It's kind of like our wolf nature and our lamb nature coming together and integrating. And I also believe it's a statement, a visionary statement about what's possible on this planet. I do believe that the wolf and lamb can lie down together, that predator and prey need no longer be in that relationship if we shift our consciousness. And I don't know if you've ever seen videos of animals that are just like really unlikely friends. It's like, whoa, that's crazy. Look at those two together. You know, it might be a little dachshund and a tiger or something, and pigs and tigers together. And so we know it is possible. But I'm not worried about what's out there. I'm worried about what's on our heart. Okay? Because this is all about who's ready to awaken and open their heart. So on my blog, and I'm a fairly prolific writer, on my blog, here's just some of the blogs that I've written. Finding Your Inner Child, where I really talk about that inner child, because I really do believe that the inner child will lead us. That if you really consult your inner child, it does not want to hurt another living being. Certainly if it doesn't have to protect itself. Now, A Simple Love was a blog. I was actually contacted, I was proud of this, I was contacted by the PR team of Moby, who's a musician, and they asked me if I would promote his new video, which was A Simple Love. So I wrote a blog and I included the video in my blog. Why the plight of animals is the single most important issue facing you today. I know how insulting that might sound to some of you. It's like, my issue is more important than that. There's more important. People are more important. This is more important. I want to expand on this and actually write a book. But the reason I say this is the single most important issue facing you today is because it's facing you today. Absolutely nobody has to do something else. You don't have to get somebody else. You don't have to get somebody to donate. You don't have to get somebody over there to do something for somebody. You don't have to get your government to change, laws to change. You don't have to get anybody to do anything out there at all. You have this choice right in front of you today. And you can make a difference. Love Was Born at Christmas is a blog I wrote about how interesting it was that the animals were there at the birth of Jesus and that the role that they played. So I'm not going to go through all of these things, but what I'm doing right now in my ministry is writing and trying to get my blog out there. And it's a unique voice because it's a spiritual blog. It's not all about facts about factory farming and blah, 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 and all that. It's a spiritual blog. And it's a spiritual blog for spiritually minded people or for animal advocates, like this blog here on giving thanks. I gave all sorts of thanks to the people who are really working towards freeing the animals. And my first blog was a prayer inspired by St. Francis, which I will read at the end. How else am I the message? Well, I'm on Facebook. And I'd love to get a bigger Facebook following. I've got to be working on that. But I'm trying to put our spiritual messages out there into the world, okay? So here's a Charles Fillmore quote: "The master on the spiritual plane is not a slave driver. He must love every creature." So that's one of my posts that I might have on my Facebook page. I'm going to show you just a few other ways that I am out there in the world conveying this message in our culture. And here's another one of my Facebook posts. So bringing scripture, love one another, in a context that you may not have seen before. Can we love one another? Can we draw that circle bigger? You know, we always talk about we need to draw people who are like. We need to draw it to different races, different countries, different everything, orientations, different political orientations, and we stop right there at the boundary of people. Can we love one another? I mentioned that 2,500 studies have declared animals to be sentient. They do have families. They do want to live. They don't have the same cognitive awareness that we do, but they do have memories. We know that pigs are extremely intelligent. They have the intelligence of probably a 3 or 4-year-old. And Dr. Sarah Boynton notes, she's an animal cognition researcher, pigs are capable of focusing their attention with even more intensity than a chimpanzee, who also can do all sorts of great things. So here's another Facebook page, post I might have. Oneness includes everyone. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me not eating an innocent animal today. This is a little bit more in your face. Be kind today. Now, this is where I'm saluting these people who are giving water to the pigs on the corner. I said, love is here. Thank you for being love in the world. Thank you for being love where most of the world chooses not to see. This is my Christmas post. They were invited too. We are all one. Be kind to all sentient beings today. What you do to them, you do to yourself. Why? Because we are all one. Bring your desire for love and peace to all beings. We are all one. This is my post-election message. With all the craziness going on in the world, there's one thing you can do. You have this power. Be love. Be kind. Be peace. Not just to those who are like you, but to all beings. Refrain from harming anyone in any way today. We are all one. And this one was a little bit more provocative. We are image and likeness of God. So why do we mercilessly slaughter innocent beings every day? Is God not the power of love itself? Isn't love our true nature? How else am I the message? Well, this is one of the boldest things I've ever done. I led a class at my church on what I call the forgotten teachings of Charles Fillmore. This is just what was said about it. For over 40 years, Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore conveyed specific teachings on spiritual maturity, universal love, and world peace that have been neglected or even omitted. These teachings address humankind's relationship to animals and how our actions regarding this relationship affect our bodies, our world, and our ability to grow spiritually. Come and learn, awaken, and be in conversation about these teachings and what they might mean to you today. Recently, I've taken the step. If I'd known I was speaking, I would have brought one of these for all of you today. But I put together a little pamphlet. I call it The Forgotten Teachings of Charles Fillmore. And it is a pamphlet. I did all this research. I did power research in the Unity archives for how much time do we have, Bonnie? An hour? I did power research. I just grabbed it all. And I noticed he had 135 talks on this. And stacks of papers about this big of stuff that he had written. And so this is a booklet that has a lot of Charles Fillmore's writings and teachings about this. These are our roots. This is our Unity movement. And in fact, Unity N was designed so that the Fillmores could demonstrate that this was possible. So this is a very challenging ministry. I'm feeling the energy here right now. There's a lot of discomfort. So it's challenging for me to find my voice, to speak from a place that is not making wrong, to speak from a place that is not, there's something wrong here, but to speak from a place of opportunity where we might be ready to awaken and align ourselves and live as fully as love as possible, and compassion and kindness. No one wants to hear this message, trust me. No one really wants it. I mean, people say, oh, it's so important, but it's a challenge to get people to listen. And so it's about finding the right balance. And this is a challenge I'm still working through, God and me. As an individual, I need to hold a lot of projections, because what I usually bring forth is a lot of defensiveness and a lot of yeah buts and a lot of, let me tell you why you're wrong. And I need to hold a lot of projections. So thank you, Holy Spirit, for holding me up. And I don't think this is anything that many people can understand, but I'm an abolitionist. I would like to see us discontinue the practice of using animals for our wants. And I do think it's for our wants now, at least in our culture. And I live among all my favorite people, our participants. And so I'm always having to live in this world is very, very, very much a challenge for me. I'm not here to ask you to feel sorry for me. I'm just trying to let you know that if I completely failed in conveying my message today, it's because of that. So what are my plans? Well, I'm going to expand my social media presence. I don't really know how to do this yet. I'm trying to get my 20-year-old daughter to help me. I need to learn how to drive more people to my website. Right now I have some contacts in the animal advocate world who often tweet my blogs, which is really nice. My blogs then go from 100 visitors to hundreds of visitors. I want to table at conferences. I'd like to table at the Unity conference and be there to talk to people and to share my resources and see who wants to talk about it. I also would like to table at animal rights conferences and be a spiritual resource for them. I'd be happy to lead workshops. I'd love to lead a Unity seminar at a conference. I'm open to speaking opportunities. I definitely have 2 books that are on my mind to write. I want to expand this. Why the plight of animals is the single most important issue facing you today. And Spirit just gave me this idea 3 days ago. And it came out of, I have a daily Lent call that I have with my community. And every day during Lent, we get on the phone at 7:45, and I do a reading and an interpretation, a prayer, and we put it out on podcast. And it really helps people transform spiritually during the Lenten season. So Spirit gave me an idea to create a 40-day devotional to help a person who's wanting to step onto this path and to leave behind, or at least to make steps towards leaving their animal-consuming lifestyle behind and provide spiritual support for them. I believe we have before us the opportunity to reset our relationship with the non-human animals and to live as one. I'm going to close with the prayer that inspired my blog, and it was inspired by the prayer of St. Francis. And it goes like this. Lord, I make myself an instrument of peace. Where there is hatred, I sow love. Wherever there is injury, I refrain from injuring. Where there's doubt, I have faith in my own convictions and ability to move mountains. Wherever there's despair, I give hope. And where there's ignorance, I bring illumination. Where there's darkness, I bear light. Where there's entrenchment, I inspire with a new vision. Where there's sadness, I allow myself to feel from the depth of my soul and stay focused on what is good and right and possible in the world. Knowing the divine truth that we are all one, I bless all life, all living beings, not just those I consider to be like me. I commit myself to living as loving kindness and compassion. No beings tremble before me, for I am love, peace, and freedom. And so it is.